Jill Conrath, sales nerd, sales speaker, sales author, and I am here today on the second of our series of videos on engaging sales presentations. In our first video, we talked about how to find the stories. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today. Now we're going to look at how to create the presentations that really sizzle and work for us. And then after that, we're moving into how to present the presentations and then also how to analyze your data from the presentations. So this is a whole package on presentations, and I am here today with somebody who's like really good at this kind of stuff. His name is Russell Anderson Williams. Can you wave, Russell?
Hello.
Hi. Good to see you. He's all the way from, where are you from?
So I'm based in a wonderful city in the UK called Bristol, just outside of London.
I think we have to let people know that you're far across the ocean from all of us, and you are like one of the world's leading experts on how to help companies up their level of their presentations. You've got a whole company that's focused on that. You're one of Prezi's official independent experts in this area. Your company is called the Prezenter, and that's Prezenter with the Z, the Prezenter.
With the Z, of course, yeah.
And he has a whole team of designers and trainers that help people either work on creating better presentations or learn how to do them themselves. The result of this, now listen you guys, this is a sales thing, is his clients have won millions of dollars in sales tenders, sales contracts, and they've really used them very well to drive more revenue, which is why we're talking to him today, because we want to find out some of the things he does to help his clients create these presentations that sell. So does that say pretty much about who you are?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very flattering intro. I appreciate it.
Russell's here today to talk with us about how to make your presentations pop. That's where we're going to start. But where he works, customers that he works with, they use a whole different word, and that is, Russell?
Whizzy. Yeah, whizzy is a term I hear an awful lot. Please, can you make our sales decks whizzier?
Okay. So that's not a common term that, you know, most of us hear, but if your clients want them whizzier, you make them whizzier. We want to make them pop and have really good top-notch sales presentations. So what have you seen over the years that really makes some presentations stand out where, you know, from the rest of the ones that are there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be honest with you, you know, we run a design agency here, so people come to us for help with design. So we very rarely get a presentation sent to us that is, you know, that just blows our minds. So we see an awful lot of really bad examples of presentations, and the classic, of course, is you know, a 50, 60 slide deck done in PowerPoint normally that just has tons and tons of bullet points on it. So occasionally though, we do get sent some real gems, and they won't be kind of mind-blowing presentations in terms of their look and feel, but they will have very little and sometimes no bullet points whatsoever. And for us, that's quite nice and refreshing. You know, someone's obviously taken a little bit more time to just put some thought into the visual brains that their audiences have. So I think that's the thing that stands out for me the most is if you are not a creative, it just requires a little bit more thought and maybe a little extra time to use some visuals, and your presentation can stand way above, you know, the general rubbish that's out there. You know, I don't want to tire
sales presentation that so many companies have. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I've seen a billion of them. And I think, you know, so many people have been trained to, you know, to do the bullet points, that is the way to convey information. Bullet point, you know, and up to 7 I remember learning 7 bullet points on a slide and no more than 7 words per bullet point. And, you know, and that's what we've been trained on.
I know, it's madness. Yeah, we've all been sold a lie. I just wish that we could go back and actually say to people, no bullet points, you know, try to find visuals to back up the words that you're going to use when you're presenting. That would be the ideal scenario, because it's so it is very easy, especially nowadays, to grab visuals and grab images, even take images with your phone and drop those into your presentations. There's really, from my point of view, I don't think there's any excuses these days for using bullet points.
Yes.
And people might think, wow, that's a big step, but it's
heresy.
not that difficult.
Heresy.
I know. Yeah, I know. Crazy.
But you know, you talked about the visual impact, and I'd like you to explain more about why visual is so important in sales presentations.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Really, it's to do with how everyone's brain is wired. So, you know, lots of people say to me, I deliver a lot of training for, I train people on how to use Prezi and presentation skills and things like that. And a lot of people will come to the session and they'll say, oh, you'll have to bear with me, I'm not creative at all. And you don't have to be creatively trained for your brain to be visually wired. You know, that's just the way all human beings are put together. So I always use a great example. You know, I say to people, think of your kitchen at home and think of 4 electrical items in that kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I let them pause and think about that. And, you know, then I say to them, okay, did you have a bullet point list of those items appear in your head? And the answer is always no. You know, even if you're a lawyer, a doctor, someone who's just not creative at all, that's how your brain will think, or, you know, your brain will think in a visual way. It will see that kitchen, it will see those items. And I got that example from one of the founders of Prezi, actually, Peter Arve. It's a great example to make people realize we need to be more visual, because we're presenting to human beings, and that's how everyone's brain is wired visually. That's how we remember stuff.
It's funny, you know, because when you said that exercise, I did not think of TOASTER. And I'm very much a person who likes words, you know, so I didn't think, I saw the picture. And the picture helps people remember, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's the age-old saying, you know, I'll probably get this wrong in how it's phrased exactly, but, you know, a picture says 1,000 words, you know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely true. And that will always be true, no matter how much technology advances and we change as human beings. We will still be wired a lot more visually than, you know, than we can digest words. I think someone did a study that said we can actually process visual information 60,000 times faster than we can actually, than we can actually read a line of text. So, yeah, I'd like to know exactly who did that study and how they found out, but it's quite interesting, and it's obviously true.
Yeah, and it sticks with you longer too, having a visual as opposed to the words. You know, the big challenge for salespeople, though, is they're so used to reading the bullet points, which I don't agree with anyway, but they're so used to reading bullet points that having a visual now requires a whole different way of doing things.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's the question I have.
Okay.
If you go into a client's office and you're working with a client and they have those 60 slide decks, you know, in front of them, and they're saying, okay, we want you to help us make this whizzy presentation. And what do you do? How do you move from the boring to the pop, something that really does it? Tell us your process, because I think a lot of people don't know how to even shed the boring and how to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess the very first thing in my process is to get them to define what whizzy means to them, because it's such a ridiculous term that it can mean anything to anyone.
I know, but it's good to laugh at here. It's a good one to bring up. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So for a lot of people, what they actually mean when they say stuff like that is what, you know, it could be, we want our salespeople to be able to navigate around the content much easier than they can at the moment, or we just want it to look much more in line with our brand. And, you know, we want to bring it into 2017 and make it, you know, just look more modern. There's a lot of different meanings that could have behind that. And what I really try and drill down to at the beginning of a conversation like this is, what's your actual objective for the presentation? So, you know, sales presentations obviously have an objective or an aim. You're there to sell, of course, but there could be other objectives within that. You know, you obviously want to drill down, you want to overcome objections, things like that. So just getting to the bottom of, what do you want this presentation to really do for you is the first thing.
So if I said,
and then go on.
So if I said to you, we're going in, we're having a lot of meetings and initial meetings with clients, but it's not going to the second meeting. That probably means, from a sales perspective, that I have not that I have not touched the customer's issues and challenges enough. I've been maybe showing too much of our stuff when they'd say, oh, that's, at the end they'd say, well, that's really nice if we ever decide to change, we'll sure look at what you have. And it's like a little pat on the head. You're like, nice boy, thank you for showing us this. But that's a real different presentation to get somebody to change than somebody was trying to implement and really up against competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it could be things like that. It could be a number of different reasons. And, I'm not a sales expert by any means. So, there might be things like that where I'm a little bit out of my league. But what we tend to do is get our customers to present their presentation to us as well.
Right. Smart.
So a lot of our customers are based in the US, so most of the times it's a call like this one, an online call. We get them to present it back to us, pretend we are a prospect and that they're trying to sell to us. Perfect. Or at the very least, and it's weird actually how uncomfortable that makes people feel.
Really?
Because because they know that we are, I guess, we're not judging them, of course, but I guess they feel like we're judging them, and maybe like we're assessing their presentation skills, which, is a whole other video series, the fear of presenting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something we do, and that helps us really get down to the core message of the presentation. What is it that they're really trying to say? How does that link into the objectives that they have as well? And then also we'll have done a little bit of homework before that initial meeting. So we'll have gone to their website, we'll have looked at their branding, tried to download some media, looked at videos they've created. So we'll have a good idea of the kind of style that is in play for their organization already. And then it's really just a case of us blending all of those things together. How do we get their objective with what they're saying and their style and brand to work together in a really nice way?
That sounds a bit complicated, but how do you, I mean, you've got all this data now. How do you work with this, and what do you do with it to actually lead to that presentation?
So we will create what we call the big picture.
Okay, create the big picture and then create the segments of the picture.
Exactly, yeah. So within that big picture, there may be, say, 10 different sections.
Okay.
If it's a company overview, for instance, there might be an about us section, company history section, and things like that, our products, our services. Mm-hmm. And so all of those sections will be somewhere within that big picture. And again, we use Prezi for all of our design projects pretty much. And so with Prezi, it's a fantastic way of being able to show people the big picture. This is our presentation. This is our visual metaphor, what we're here to talk about. And let's take you into the story of our company. So let's zoom into the history section and talk about that. And then we can come back out to that big picture at any time.
It's kind of like a pick your own adventure type of book.
Yeah, actually, just like that. Yeah.
So we're going to skip now ahead to page 47 of this book, because that's what you chose. And that's what you think. Important.
Absolutely. Well, we call that conversational presenting, and that's a phrase that Prezi is really trying to drive home in a lot of its own marketing as well. And I talk about it an awful lot. I've used conversational presenting myself for years now, trying to win business for our business, and it genuinely works. And I think that's where the real power of Prezi lies, is that it enables this way of just freely navigating around between sections based on the responses of your audience, instead of just, here's my story from A to Z, shut up and listen until you have a question.
I'm here to pitch. I'm here to go through the whole presentation with you, every slide.
Definitely.
So shut up and listen, as opposed to going here, going there.
Yeah, as opposed to saying, okay, what would you like to focus on? And just asking people that simple question is something that they will not be used to these days. So I find that as soon as I ask people that when I'm presenting, what do you want to talk about? They sit up much straighter, they put their phones away, they really pay attention and engage from the start. So a lot of what we do is not just designing a presentation, but showing our customers that actually you can really change the way you present.
The dynamic of
the presentation itself. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, as opposed to having people sitting back as soon as you pull out your standard slide deck
Yeah.
like this and saying, go ahead, you know.
Yeah, go ahead. I've seen it all before.
Seen it all before.
Yeah.
Boring, boring, and I'll listen
Yeah.
to your spiel as
Yeah.
as opposed to what's most important to you, or where would you like to focus your time?
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
the big
I mean,
priority?
that's the thing that I would encourage everyone to do. You know, I take lots of calls from companies who maybe aren't ready to work with us straight away, but one thing I encourage them to do is try to start having conversations with their prospects rather than just deliver a presentation, because it just gets them in this whole new gear and new way of thinking, and you do get better results from it for sure, especially in a sales environment.
Yes, I mean, because nobody wants to be talking to a prospective client who's leaning back, because that means they are judging you, you know?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And they're yawning and they're pulling out their cell phones, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah. So you actually design it with engagement in the physical design of the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we design presentations for lots of different scenarios. So if we're designing for someone who's just standing up on stage for a big conference, then that's a different story. That would be a linear presentation, but a lot of presentations we build will be for salespeople.
Right.
And the biggest question we get asked is, how can we use Prezi to help us engage people more? And my answer is always, you know, the basis of what Prezi is, especially Prezi Next, the newest version, is that it's built around giving the presenter the ability to dip in and out of different areas of content. And that just enables conversation, which in turn enables, you know, or increases engagement and hopefully leads to more sales. Well,
it sure differentiates you from all the other boring presentation clones out there who are going through their slide deck one by one, and you're having an actual conversation and moving people in and out of what is.
I think that's probably one of the best things about it is it doesn't feel like a presentation when you deliver say a Prezi in that way. One of the things your audience will say to you is, it doesn't feel like I've been presented to. Actually, it just feels like we've had a chat, we've had a conversation. And that's what you want, you know, you want to build that rapport and things like that.
You know, I think a lot of people don't realize it, but that is what you want. You want somebody, it doesn't feel like you've just given us a presentation. It feels like we've just been talking about what matters.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
and I can remember myself doing that, and at one point ditching slides altogether and just going and sitting with a flip chart in front of my customers and just talking, because the slides were actually getting in the way at that point in the linear fashion, like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
I mean, and I at one point threw them out and said, I'm just talking to these people because
good for
there's
you.
no way to work with a multiple slide deck.
Yeah, it does feel like old school kind of PowerPoint presentations like that. It's almost like having a third person in the room. You know, it's like, okay, I want to chat to you in my audience, but actually we also need to pay attention to this guy. Whereas now it's kind of like, there is no middleman. Let's just have a conversation, and here's some visuals that I can show you to back that up as we're chatting. Yeah.
Right. It does require salespeople to change what they do, though. I have to say, a lot of them have been trained in the, you know, let's go through the deck presentations, and that is not working. Customers today are like immensely bored with that kind of stuff. I have a friend who wrote a book called Stop Global Boring. It's about presentation. Stop Global Boring. I think, oh, that's a great title, you know, that we just really have to move away from something like that and then talk with people about what matters.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know last time we talked, you mentioned that you had some resources on your website. Is there anything you'd like to share with everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on our website, if you're looking for some inspiration in terms of what good presentation design looks like, then by all means, check out our website at theprezenter.com and click on our Prezi design portfolio there. There's lots of great examples. If anyone's looking for help with Prezi design, you have a big tender or pitch coming up, happy to speak to you if you want to reach out. But also we have some online training on our website as well. So if you're interested in becoming a Prezi user and trying to get the most out of it, to engage your audience in the ways we've just been talking about, there's actually a full beginner's course on our website. It's really cheap.
Oh,
It's really
but
cheap.
that's not indicative of quality though, is it?
Not, no, not at all, not at all. So we made it just because we literally couldn't keep up with demand for Prezi training. But yeah, it'll take you a few hours to go through. There's lots of downloadable resources and exercises. And we've had some great feedback on it. So as a starting point for anyone out there who's looking to move away from PowerPoint and slides, I'd say definitely check that out.
And if nothing else, I would say, you know, just to open people's mind, if you've never seen the different kind of presentation, you need to go look at the presentations on the website to just feel about what's possible with technology today. Because honest to God, it is different. It's different in the brain. You see things differently and go, oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's so much stuff out there. I mean, I know all of this because it's my job to know all of this. You know, it's not a salesperson's, it's not in their day job to figure out, oh, what's the next best way to present. But they're really, if you just put put 20, 30 minutes aside from, you know, your week and just have a look at, you know, go to Google and type in presentation tools or new ways to present. And you'll see Prezi, you'll see a lot of you know, articles that I've written and ebooks and so many resources out there these days. Yeah. It's very easy to up your game and set yourself apart from the competition. Right. It just needs a bit of time, that's all. And a slightly different way of thinking.
Yeah, we do need to stop global boring. As Kathy McCaffrey,
yeah, absolutely.
says, we do need to stop global boring, and every one of us can do it on our own and do some alterations on our own. Even if we have corporate decks, we can start playing with different things and, you know, and creating conversations, engaging conversations as opposed to boring presentations. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate our engaging conversation. And for those of you who are still listening in at this point, I want to invite you back for the next one that's coming soon. We're going to look at we're going to speak to Julie Hansen, and she's going to be talking about how to really create this engagement when you've got the presentation, how to ensure that it's engaging, and different strategies you can use. So thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you Russell for being here today.
Thank you very much.